Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about recently concluded the 12th Ministerial Conference of World Trade Organization. So in this particular video, we are going to discuss briefly about what is the World Trade Organization, what are its main roles and functions, and what are the key takeaways that we can have from this concluded 12th Ministerial Conference and how this affects India overall. So let us start and try to understand about this topic in more detail. So first of all, the context in which we are discussing today's issues is, as just discussed, the 12th Ministerial Conference of WTO, which was being held in Geneva, a city in Switzerland. However, it was co-hosted by the Kazakhstan, has been concluded on the 17th of June. Initially, the we can say schedule of the conference was between 12 to 15 June, but due to the intense negotiation that was going on between several countries led to extension of this particular conference by 2 more days. The 12th Ministerial Conference of WTO has agreed, we can say the outcome of this ministerial conference has been that a lot of countries have, or the member countries have agreed to a series of deals after extended or protracted negotiations. As per the statement given by the WTO Secretary General, he has said that deals relate to the temporary waivers on COVID-19 vaccines, moratorium on e-commerce trade and the taxes, food security, as well as the setting of limits on the harmful fishing subsidies. As per the WTO Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, she has said the conference for the first time in a long period of time has yielded unprecedented package of deliverable, and such kind of outcome has not been seen in the history of WTO's ministerial conference for a long while, and that is why it makes it much more important to understand that what has been the key outcomes of this particular conference. So first of all, let us try to understand what is World Trade Organization. Set up in year 1995, WTO is run by total 164 member states. It is also only international organization that deals with the rules of trade between countries. That means we can say that WTO is responsible for creating an international rule of trade that has to be followed and abided by all the member states. Not only that, it becomes more important because in WTO all decisions are taken through consensus and any member of WTO can exercise a veto. So that is why it makes it different from organizations such as United Nations Security Council, where 5 countries have veto and any one of them can use their veto to. Only 5 countries have veto power, while other members of United Nations do not have veto power in Security Council. While on the other hand, in WTO, all members have a veto power. Now, what are the objectives which WTO tries to fulfill? So first of all, it tries to promote a free and fair trade all across the world, and especially its importance has increased in the era of globalization, liberalization, and privatization, where all the world has become kind of a single integrated economy. Second, it also provides a forum for countries so that they can come together and negotiate multilateral, bilateral trade deals and settle if there is any economic dispute that has arisen between two or several countries. Not only that, it also provides a platform for the countries and facilitate them in discussing and signing trade agreements which are beneficial for both the countries or different trading partners. So that is why WTO is very important, as it provides a common platform where all the countries can come together and address their issues and try to have a good deal, a good negotiation and trade settlement. So what is the Ministerial Conference of WTO? Ministerial Conference of WTO is its top decision making body, and usually it convenes after end of every 2 years. All the members of WTO are basically involved in the Ministerial Conference, and they can take decision on all the matters that are covered under any of the multilateral trade agreement. Now let us try to focus on the main theme of today's issue, is that is the what are the key takeaways of this particular ministerial conference. So first theme is the curtailing of harmful fishing subsidies. The member states of WTO have finally came together and agreed on a certain agreed on how they will go and curtail the fishing subsidies, especially harmful fishing subsidies. So what are the main points regarding that? First of all, the member states have agreed that they'll curb harmful subsidies, especially on those fishing which are illegal, unreported and unregulated in nature. And this curtailment of subsidy will go on for the next 4 years, which can be also extended further. Second, it also aims to better protect the global fish stocks. Now, what is the importance of this particular step? So first of all, taking this step will promote environmental sustainability, especially in the maritime environment, And also it is important because almost 260 million people all across the world depends, or their livelihood depends on the fisheries, and that is why taking certain decision will also affect their livelihood. Now, what is the India's stand, or what has been India's concession that it was trying to gain from WTO on this particular matter? So as India actually wanted that subsidies that are enjoyed by small and marginal artisanal farmers as well as traditional farmer should not be curtailed, and it should be kept on, it should be facilitated, and that is what WTO has basically agreed, and that is why India is happy from this particular decision taken by WTO, because India basically is focusing on artisanal and traditional farmers, and their fishing rights, their fishing subsidies will not be affected by this particular themes. The second takeaways is with regard to global food security or ensuring global food security. And in this regard, the countries or member states have agreed that the items or cereals, or we can say food items, that is procured by United Nations World Food Program for humanitarian purposes, these kind of export will be exempted from any kind of restrictions. That means if any country want to levy export restriction, they will have to make a provision so that the export that is basically done for United Nations World Food Program, procurement of United Nations World Food Program, they should be kept out of the ambit of restriction. So if we try to understand about the importance of this particular decisions, we can understand this in the present context when the Russia and Ukraine war is going on. And due to this war that has been going on for almost more than 3 months, it has caused disruption of the supply chain, and it has also caused disruption in the supply of very crucial food items, because both Russia and Ukraine used to be a largest wheat exporter in the world. And that is why it has caused crisis in a lot of Asian as well as African countries. So taking that into consideration, it is a welcome step, because a global food shortage and rising prices, especially in the least developed and developing countries, can be curtailed to certain extent by keeping UN World Food Program out of the export restriction ambit. Because recently Indonesia has decided that it will ban the export of oil palm. India similarly has decided it will ban the export of wheat. So in these situations, it becomes very, very difficult to run this program if it is not kept out of the ambit of restrictions. So what has been India's stand? So India's stand has been that it has always asked in WTO's Ministerial Conference that it should be allowed to restrict food supplies to ensure domestic food security need. That means export restriction India will not apply in any cases. It will only apply if it has to ensure that its domestic food security needs are not compromised. And that has been actually we can say agreed upon by the member states of WTO, because this has been kept out of the particular export restriction ambit. Now, the third theme on which a decision has been made is with regards to the e-commerce transactions. So what are the e-commerce transaction? It is a transaction that is done in the cases of digital services that is being imported and exported. And in this case, it has been decided by the member state that they will continue to have a long-standing moratorium on the custom duties that has to be levied on the e-commerce transmission until the next subsequent ministerial conference, or until March 31, 2024, whichever happens earlier. Now, what is the importance of this particular step is that especially this is relevant, or this is very, very important for developing countries, because it is believed that developing countries will lose a lot of potential tariff revenue if the digital services trade are exempted from custom duties levy. And India also agrees here, because it says that developing countries basically have to face the brunt of financial consequence of such a moratorium. And stating that same, the Commerce Minister of India, Mr. Piyush Goyal, has said that potential tariff revenue loss of almost $50 billion on import of only 49 digital products has been incurred by the developing countries, and that is why India was not in favor of continuing the moratorium on the custom duties. The first time moratorium on the custom duty was levied was somewhere in the year 1998, when the internet itself, or the digital services, digital era itself, was in a very nascent stage, and that is why since then it has been continuously extended. But since the digital services market has become such a huge market, especially for India, and because India is the IT center, IT capital of the world, so it becomes very crucial if the moratorium is not extended, because India can gain a huge revenue from it. So that was the stand of India. However, unfortunately, this demand of India was not met, and moratorium was extended. The last takeaway, or the last theme on which a decision was made, with regards to COVID-19 vaccine production. And in this regard, all the member states have agreed that they will temporarily waive intellectual property patents on the COVID-19 vaccine without the consent of patent holder for at least next 5 years. What does it mean? It basically means that any vaccine producer will not be able to patent their vaccine formulas at least for next 5 years, and this will help in developing countries as well as least developed countries in producing the vaccines in their own country by looking at how other vaccines have been produced. So what is the importance of this particular step? The importance is that it will help in ongoing efforts of the international agencies and UN, WTO, WHO to concentrate and diversify vaccine manufacturing capacity. Now, what will be the outcome of this, or what will be the objective? What is the objective of this? Objective is simple, that if the vaccine manufacturing is diverse in nature, that means it is happening at different areas, different regions of the world, and a country or the region have not to depend on some other countries for vaccine, then if suppose there is a vaccine shortage in one region, then the other region will not have to deal with the vaccine shortage. So basically, it will increase the probability of every citizens of the world, every people of the world to get a COVID vaccine. So what has been India's stand? India's stand has been first of all stated in year 2020, when India along with South Africa asked that broader intellectual property waivers should be not only for vaccines but also for the COVID-19 treatment as well as COVID-19 test. However, the present agreement is kind of watered down version of India's and South Africa's demand, because only vaccine has been waived. Only the vaccine has been waived off from intellectual property patents. Treatments and tests still can be under the can be patented by the producer. So that is something that India, we can say, had 50-50 win in this particular case. However, this step has also drawn criticism, especially from the Medicines Sans Frontiers, which also in English translates to Doctors Without Borders, which is an international NGO working in the field of betterment of health, especially in the African and Asian nations. So what basically Medicines Sans Frontiers have criticized, that the current agreement is very narrow in scope, as it did not cover all the medical tools like diagnostic and treatment from patent cover. Second, it does not apply to all the countries. That is also one loophole, and that is why they have said that the current agreement fails overall to offer any effective and meaningful protection or solution to help increase people's access to needed medical tools, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. So what we can say in the conclusion, especially from the point of view of India, is that India has a key demand that it has raised in the WTO Ministerial Conference, and that demand was with regards to food export, where it has asked that it should be allowed to export food from its public stock holding to other countries. However, the WTO has decided that this matter will be discussed not in this 12th Ministerial Conference, but the next Ministerial Conference that is going to be held in 2023. However, as per the statement given by the Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, he has said that India is 100% satisfied with the ministerial outcome, and he is not returning to India with any worries. So on the positive note, the Minister of Commerce Piyush Goyal has said that WTO has yielded positive outcome for India as a whole. So I hope you understood about the major outcomes and takeaways of Ministerial Conference. That is all for today. Thank you very much.